Um, I was very interested in the presentation by all the panelists, especially the one from Giovanni, where he talked about the different impacts on COVID and how it's how it impacted us, the way we travel, and it's really interesting how they are going to do further analysis and survey for post-pandemic. So I can't wait for that. But I think with this critical mass, I think we can start with this route table, and I think we have roughly about an hour for this route table. Since we only have about 10 people in the room, would you guys like to unmute and introduce yourself, or would you like me just go ahead and start the route table discussion? All right, hearing none, so I would just go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon. Thank you again for attending part 2 of the 33rd Demographic Workshop about forecasting the new normal. My name is Tom Vo. I'm a program manager for the Local Information Services at SCAG. I'm your facilitator for today's roundtable discussion about SCAG's regional data platform and local data exchange process. So with that, it is my privilege to introduce Jonah Pelikia to give us a tour of SCAG's new innovative and transformative platform to enhance local and regional planning. So with that, I'll pass it on to you, Jonah.
All right, thank you, Tom. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonah, as Tom said. I'm a regional planner at the Southern California Association of Governments. And today I'm going to be presenting on our regional data platform, which will come to serve as the hub for geographic data across 197 of Southern California's jurisdictions. And Tom, who is joining me today, is going to be facilitating our discussion later on in the presentation. So I was hoping, since I know it's a bit late in the day for everybody to introduce themselves, but maybe you could enter your name and organization to the chat so we know who's here. And with that, I will kick it off. So this is the agenda for today's presentation. So we're starting with a brief introduction and then followed by this brief presentation on the history and tools of the regional data platform. And then I will launch a brief demonstration of some of our data tools. And then finally, I will hand it off to Tom to facilitate the discussion. So for those of you who may not be familiar, the Southern California Association of Governments is tasked by the state and federal governments to produce a regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategy every 4 years. And these plans serve as the guiding documents for coordinating transportation, land use, and greenhouse gas reduction across our 6-county region. SCAG's Regional Data Platform, or RDP, is a new system for collaborative data sharing and planning designed to facilitate better and more efficient planning at all levels, from cities and counties of all sizes up to the region as a whole. The Regional Data Platform provides tools to standardize regionally significant data sets and opportunities for local jurisdictions to update their data in real time and also to draw insights from local trends. The information is going to support regional and local planning for the implementation of the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy by enhancing SCAG's existing data system capability for data-driven decision-making, promoting governmental transparency, encouraging collaborative regional and community planning, expanding SCAG's data infrastructure system, improving regional data standardization, performing best practices for improvements on data updates, data sharing, and data visualization. But overall, the platform is envisioned as a platform for a smarter region with 3 major goals, which are to provide access, firstly, to data, modern tools, and best practices that support stronger planning and information-based decision-making at all levels. Secondly, to streamline the exchange of data with jurisdictions and partners across the region while establishing procedures and standards for geospatial consistency. And then finally, thirdly, to establish a community of planners and GIS professionals and practitioners to foster collaboration and collective learning, as well as guide the long-term growth and evolution of the regional data platform. The regional data platform does a number of things, but it fits into 3 categories. It streamlines SCAG's open data and applications. It provides tools to both the public and others specifically to local jurisdictions, and also it facilitates two-way data exchange with local jurisdictions. There are several different aspects to the regional data platform. Actually, let me go back. That was. There is the regional hub, which is part of our accessible data and information. We have different tools like Helper and Parcel Explorer, and the local data exchange web and local data exchange upload section. So now I'm going to present on in higher detail, some of the data information tools available in the regional data platform. And you'll notice that as I present these tools, some are accessible to the general public, while others are reserved for members of SCAG's of the SCAG organization. So the regional hub provides a one-stop access to data, tools, and information, as well as a platform for two-way engagement. And it features and capabilities include a rich content catalog with data, maps, apps, policy resources, and more. There's a planner's corner, which is full of planning-specific resources. There is public and private access, and it allows for a collaborative workspace where different organizations and jurisdictions can provide information on their regional programs and initiatives. And then finally, there is also the ability to request one-on-one technical assistance from SCAG staff through the local information services team, which I will be providing the email for at the end of this presentation. Another tool available is the SoCal Atlas tool, and this is a web-based experience allowing member agencies, other regional stakeholders, and the general public to explore data, statistics, and maps across topics and geographies. And I'm going to be providing a bit of a brief demonstration of this tool a little bit later in the presentation. In addition to that, we also have our regional data platform data and engagement tools. So again, publicly available is the Helper tool, and this is to assist jurisdictions with creating their 8-year housing portions. So this provides the ability to evaluate which parcels within your jurisdiction may have the potential for residential development based on parcel attribute information and recommended filters. I'll also be briefly going over that tool. There is the parcel locator tool, which is a self-service resource for planners and residents or other stakeholders to find and discover rich information about specific parcels. So the first of the tools that's available exclusively to member agencies who are part of SCAG is the local general plan update site templates. And these are ready-to-use templates for web-based general plans for use by member agencies. And these communicate and engage with residents about general plan updates. Additionally, there are other resources that jurisdictions can use, like the off-the-shelf planning and engagement tools, which include Esri products, which are provided to member agencies along with resources and templates, as well as best practices to support a broad range of common planning and resident engagement workflows. These include Business Analyst, Web, ArcGIS Urban, and ArcGIS Pro as well. And then we have our local data exchange tools, which are really integral to SCAG's main mission, which is to do community engagement, particularly with our local jurisdictions, to get insight for the development of our regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategies every 4 years. So we have the LDX website, and this is a central location where member agencies and other stakeholders can access data sharing tools and related local data exchange resources. They can view information and statistics on their data, on the state of data in the region, as well as information on their local jurisdictions through our data map books. And they can request technical assistance from SCAG, once again, through the local information services team. There is the data editor tool, which is an interactive web-based application where jurisdictions and other key stakeholders can explore, review, and update and or comment on data shared with both them and then back with SCAG through the local data exchange process for their jurisdiction. There is data sharing abilities, which are additional mechanisms that allow member agencies to provide data to SCAG And this can be anything from uploading a PDF of a map change to uploading your own shape files. And then finally, there is the data reviewer interface, which is a workflow that allows member agencies to review and approve edits to data within their jurisdictions before edits are sent to SCAG and incorporated into our regional layers. And so with that, I am going to stop sharing and then share my browser so I can get into a demonstration of some of the tools within the regional data platform. So are you all able to see the SCAG webpage? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Great. So when you're on the SCAG webpage, this is the main webpage, scag.ca.gov. To get to the regional data platform, you navigate over to the right side button here that says Regional Data Platform, RDP. You click on that, and that will take you here to the Regional Data Platform webpage that provides a brief description of what the Regional Data Platform is and some of its goals. And to access the RDP, you can scroll down to the bottom here and then click this Access the RDP button. And that will then take you to SCAG's Regional Data Platform Hub. And this is really an important page that provides a lot of the different publicly available tools that I had mentioned earlier. So you can go to the content library, for example, and if you're familiar with SCAG's Open Data Portal, it's a very similar interface. And this has the shape files and data, all of which is used in the regional data platform. And you can download it and import that into your own Esri products, and you can manipulate it as you wish. The Planner's Corner, as I mentioned before, which is the interactive space. But in addition to that, we also created a series of these training videos for the regional data platform so that if there are any questions that jurisdictions or local stakeholders have as to how to use this platform, let's say they didn't get one of these demonstrations or they need a refresher, they can come here and they can look at all these different videos that teach them how to use our tools. And again, we have some templates, off-the-shelf planning tools. You can, if you're a local jurisdiction, you can request these Esri products. And then finally, you can showcase some of your work down here at this interactive portion. As far as requesting technical assistance, you can also request technical assistance by providing an inquiry here. Drop down the type of request and provide details, name, address, and agency type. And then if you submit that, it'll go straight to the local information services team where it will be reviewed, and we can put you in contact with relevant SCAG staff for assistance. But now there's also the Apps and Maps tab, which is really what I want to go to. But before I get there, the Local Data Exchange tab, I'm not going to really go through that, but that's primarily for our local jurisdictions, for the private tools that they are able to access. But the Apps and Maps page brings you to our public tools, featured applications, including the Helper tool, Parcel Locator, and SoCal Atlas. And it's as simple as clicking the Launch Application button, which I will do for the Helper tool. And it takes you to our interactive web page. You get this splash information here that explains the Helper tool and just gives you basic information. We have a documentation section here that provides more detailed information about data. You can also switch between apps within the tool by switching to Helper, Parcel Locator, SoCal Atlas. Regional data platform, you can get to the RDP homepage. But again, that's the editor tools is a private tool. There's also a map layers tool here where you can view the different layers that are active, and then legend, which will become active if you were to zoom in to a jurisdiction. So I'll just give a brief demo as to sort of information you can get from the Helper tool by looking at the city of Long Beach. So you'll notice that at this level, we have all of the over 5 million parcels in the SCAG region selected, and nothing is displaying because it's at too high of a level. If I zoom in to Long Beach by searching, you see that a lot of the general plan land use information becomes available, and you can visualize that. So let's say you're a jurisdiction and you want to figure out vacant parcels of an appropriate size, for example. You can change some of the information here to make it fit your usage, but let's say you're looking for parcels that are between 0.5 and 10 acres, and you want to use those vacant parcels to potentially be zoned for future housing developments to meet your housing element needs. If all you have to do is simply click on this button, and it filters out for all of the vacant parcels in the city that meet that criteria. But let's say this information isn't quite sufficient. You want to, it can't be half an acre. You really want something that's a little bit larger in size. So you want to change it to 2 acres, right? So originally it's 214 parcels selected. Now it's only 58 parcels selected. And so you're able to change that as you want in order to reach what you're looking for. And this exists for a lot of different characteristics. So for example, let's say you want it to be easy to get entitlements on the land. So you want publicly owned land because let's say you want to go into a land agreement with an affordable housing developer. You can check publicly owned land. Let's say federal is a little bit too difficult. State you might be able to work with, maybe school districts a little bit difficult, college and university is a little bit difficult. So let's say you want those 5, and then military is a little difficult too. So you want those 4 sections checked. You can add, and you want it to be of that size, right? So you can check that and add it, and now it narrows down to 78 parcels that meet the criteria of being both publicly owned within those categories and are vacant parcels of the appropriate size. And then this varies based on different categories that are specific to housing elements and what are required. So that includes proximity to services. It includes like hospitals, supermarkets, things like that, transit stations, environmental justice areas based off of California state law. And so a lot of this is very helpful to make it very easy for jurisdictions to quickly identify parcels that meet their needs for their housing elements. And it also doesn't require a tremendous amount of GIS experience either. But let's say you did have GIS experience, you could also go to this down here, and you can download the parcels as a CSV, or you can download a shapefile with that information. And again, you can import that into your own GIS services, and then you can use all of Esri's tools to be able to change the data and get exactly what you're looking for. So that is a brief overview of the helper tool. But I also wanted to go over another exciting tool that we have, which is SoCal Atlas. And you will see that it is a very similar interface. We tried to make sure that everything is very easy to use and very, very similar. So again, you get the splash page of information, basic information. And so the default map that you get when you load, once it loads, the SoCal Atlas is this census population. And so it starts out with this legend that shows census population information by county to start with. So you can click on that and you get entire county, and you can get all the relevant census information that you might need. Breakdown by race, ethnicity, occupancy rates, total housing units, population, etc. But if you are to zoom in closer, you'll notice that it ends up at a certain distance auto separating. Once I get to that distance, there we go. Auto separating by census tract. And so you're able to look at everything tract by tract to be able to look at total population. But this is available for a wide range of different things that might be usable for various stakeholders, whether it's not-for-profit organizations, private individuals, or local jurisdictions. You can look at things such as household income. Again, it can take a little bit of time, but you can get household income data. And again, you can get that by census tract, and you have this legend here that gives you sort of a rundown of how this works. So the predominant category, household incomes. So the color would be based on the predominant category, and then the size is based off of how predominant it is. So the total number of households, right, based on all of that. And again, strength of predominance is right there. And you can look at all kinds of different information. So let's say you really wanted to know about employment information, right? You can look at statistics. You could also look at the map itself. So you can zoom into a different area. So if you wanted, say, to look at the region more holistically, you can see where prominent industries are present. Or you could look at commute times across SoCal Atlas, and you can see across the region how long commute times are by census tract, again, as it fills in. And you can see where people have longer commutes versus where people have shorter commutes. And so you can do this for employment data, housing data, population data, again, race, ethnicity, COVID-19 data. We have some interesting COVID-19 data. And so, yeah, those are some of the amazing features that are available through SoCal Atlas. And with that, that ends the demonstration portion of the presentation. And with that, I think, well, actually, let me share it back to the PowerPoint. Okay, and with that, I will move on. Okay, yeah, so with that, I'm done with the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Tom to facilitate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonah. That was really great how you show different functionalities of Helper and the SoCal Atlas. So I can see that there's a lot of, there's a wealth of, information behind the database, behind these applications. And can you speak a little bit about the data processing behind Helper, in terms of parcel level, and how did we, come up with the database to create that rich data that you show in Helper?
Yeah, the data processes, so a lot of the backend work that goes into all of this is working off of our annual existing land use information, which comes from tax assessor roles for each of the counties. In addition to that, we also collect every 4 years information on local general plan land use for all of our local jurisdictions, all 197. And then we try to manually update all of that. We have zoning information as well for all of our jurisdictions, specific plan information, and just a host of other land use information that gets incorporated into that. And so that takes everything from acreage to FAR to allowable number of units or density of units on a site. And so it takes a lot of work and oftentimes takes years of effort to get done.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think you quickly mentioned about the local data exchange process, or we work, with local jurisdictions to also for them to review and provide corrections back to us to create this very comprehensive database. So and I think and earlier I saw that part of your demo, and you show the website there, and I saw the little local data exchange. So I'm wondering what's in there, and are there anything interesting that you may want to show to our audience or share with us?
Yeah, so the local data exchange, and I briefly touched on this, but is our process for collaborating with each one of our jurisdictions to ensure that our information is as accurate as possible. So unsurprisingly, when you are dealing with 6 counties, and 197 jurisdictions total, information is not always, completely accurate when you're looking at it from that high of a level. So it's really important to work with our jurisdictions and keep in constant contact with them. And so right now, SCAG is in the process of updating its regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategy, and we're going through the regional data platform or the local data exchange process with all 197 of our jurisdictions. But yeah, Tom, I can briefly share my screen again and go over some of the exciting tools, or just a little bit more information about what we have through the regional data platform. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm back to the Regional Data Platform Hub page. So again, the tab that I had sort of briefly touched on was the local data exchange tab. And so this is the public interface tab for our local data exchange process. Again, a brief overview of why it exists and how it's critical both to our work, but also hopefully helpful to our local jurisdictions. But this is our timeline for our outreach process. So we began with our outreach with a soft launch of our data map books for local jurisdictions to review, and began meeting with our jurisdictions in late February and early March. And we're continuing this process all the way through to our December 2nd deadline date. And on that date, all local data from our local jurisdictions needs to be submitted so that we can then proceed to the next phases of our regional transportation and sustainable community strategy plan. We've created multiple types of participants to accommodate both larger and smaller jurisdictions in how they want to add data into the process, as well as created a method for requesting an account so that our jurisdictions can access our private side of this page and make the edits that they need to. And again, the information that's in the local data exchange process is all of our land use information, our information on transportation, priority development areas, but these are areas where we think that new development should be encouraged rather than discouraged. Geographical boundaries for our jurisdictions, green region resource areas, which identify areas in which development may be constrained due to certain environmental factors, such as flood zones or fire risk, and then our growth data and projections for housing and employment. And yeah, that I think covers the public page for our local data exchange.
Thanks, Jonah. That was great. So as you can see, there's a lot of process here that we are, a SCAG doing that Jonah is part of, and this is, these tools that Jonah shared are, really innovative and transformative in terms of regional and local planning here. We do have a question in the chat for you, Jonah, about sub-area level projections, preliminary growth forecasts. So are they available on the RDP, and who can access them?
So sub-area level population employment projections. Yeah, our growth forecasts will be more publicly available. I mean, well, you can access that through the data map books, and those are publicly available online for each one of our jurisdictions. But those are preliminary forecasts right now. We're still working in the process of working with our local jurisdictions to make sure that our information is accurate and our projections are accurate. When we finish our regional transportation plan and our sustainable communities strategy in 2024, then we'll have the finalized numbers. And so, yeah, it is available, but primarily right now for the general public through a different page. If you are part of one of our local jurisdictions, on the other hand, you do have direct access to that information and are able to provide input.
Thank you. And to follow up on that question, so how many, you briefly mentioned about the different types of LDX participants. So I'm wondering how many accounts can each local jurisdiction create or request to get access into the LDX web?
Yeah, there is no limit to the number of accounts that a jurisdiction can request. So you can have a different account for every member of your staff, and they can be each type of reviewer if you want. Either somebody who makes edits and then somebody who just reviews those edits and approves them, or if you're a smaller jurisdiction and you only have one person, then that person really covers both roles. But any member of staff who you want to have access can have access through their own account.
All right, that's great. Any other questions from the group here? You can unmute yourself and ask the question, or if you want to put it in the chat, that's okay too.
Yeah, hi there. This is Jacob Ritchie from BAE. urban economics. Thanks so much for speaking and presenting these new capabilities. But so a lot of my firm's clients are interested in population and employment projections. And I was just wondering if that kind of data is available in the RDP.
Yeah, so I think Jonah briefly mentioned that earlier. We do have that information available on the RDP. Now, however, there are different versions of this projection, that this data that you're talking about. Are you talking about the adopted projections or work in progress projections, or what year are you looking at?
I think the year that I'm looking at is I think it was 2045 or 2040. That was like the last kind of publicly reported version of the data I was looking at, but I wasn't sure if there was, more detail there. Especially, I think we can see like the PDF versions of population projection, but not necessarily employment projections by sector, like that level of detail, although I know it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, we do have that for our regional transportation model purposes. However, if you are requesting that data, then we would have to go through a different process through a special request, because since these projections are adopted and validated by our local jurisdiction, so we would have to go through some special requests for that. But happy to discuss more, Jacob, and you could send us an email, and I'll put it in the chat here, list@ca.gov, at scag.ca.gov, and we can talk more offline.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions from the group?
Hi, this is Nate Black. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. I had a question about the tools that you mentioned. In your own work, what would you say has been the most helpful tool for you?
I mean, honestly, I've contributed to the data collection for a lot of these tools, so I might be a bit biased. I would say that I think from personal experience, the helper tool has been particularly helpful, but particularly useful for our local jurisdictions, particularly our smaller jurisdictions, to be able to, who may not have their own GIS staff or may not have their own GIS experience, to be able to quickly use an interactive web-based tool in order to identify things that they need in order to get their housing elements completed. So I think if I were to pick a number one, that would be it for right now. But we're still developing our tools, making sure that they improve. So.
Yeah, that was a good question, and really, I mean, we all have our preferences here, and I think the tool that Jonah mentioned earlier also about SoCal Atlas. I mean, that tool is really cool too, because you can actually look at data in a different lens. So and with that, Jonah, I do have a quick question on that tool, and so I think you mentioned that the tool is publicly available, and so if somebody from a city or public, a local resident that wants to create, say, a quick map or a custom report for their city, can they do that?
Yes, they're able to do that.
Oh. Looks like you were about to show something, but that's really that's great to that's great to know. Okay. Are there any other questions in the from the group? All right. Well, hearing none, I think this has been a great roundtable discussion. And thank you for the questions, Jacob and Blake. And Nate. So if you have any other questions that you would like to ask us or learn more about, the tools and trainings and things like that, so please reach out to us, at list at scag.ca.gov. That's where I put in the chat. But thank you again for today, for your attendance, and hope you have a great day.